deport them. What is the real reason? If they're just contributors to the U.S. economy, just like you and me, if they're even more meaningful, in some instances, more meaningful contributors to the U.S. economy, to agricultural output, then what is the one thing that you are seeing that is different about them than someone like yourself, someone like Tucker? Anyway, let's see what Alex Jones's new copium session looks like, because as you guys know, he's been actively trying to sweep for the Trump administration here.
As you know, I just call balls and strikes.
Yeah, no, totally. Good start. Let's see.
And after years of saying they will release the Epstein filer list, suddenly they're not going to, and we're told it doesn't exist. But then Trump comes out last night and says, well, it does exist, but the Democrats had control of it, manipulated it, which is actually true. They've had control, but they would destroy anything they didn't want in there and leave what they wanted in there that their investigators could plant. So people say, well, then whose side are you on? This is a giant fiasco. I'm trying to call balls and strikes. I'm trying to look at every angle of this and understand what's happening, understand why the Trump administration did a 180 the last few months, and particularly the last week, and did this, and then blames loyal supporters who support the overall agenda as being traitorous for doing this. Now, we all know what triggered this. It was Elon 2 months ago saying, look, Trump's in the list, and that big breakup there. And then Trump wants it closed. He wants it shut down, which looks extremely incriminating. But from all of my deep research, never saw Trump involved in any illegal activity with Jeffrey Epstein. So we are simply here tracking this case, not choosing a side, not wanting to make things be what we want them to be, but simply looking at the...
I like that he starts off this by being like, well, all my research shows Trump is innocent 100%. So we're not here to pick a side. I'm here to call balls and strikes, which of course show me, and my deep research shows me that Trump is actually a white hat. That's right. Any kind of sexual pedophilia that Donald Trump might have engaged in, he actually did to unearth Jeffrey Epstein's horrific crimes that mostly liberal Democrats were doing.
Facts, but I dropped the ball. I didn't even think about the fact. I'm like, oh yeah, if they've had the list and they've had the files for years, the Democrats would take.
Yeah, with all of his endless research, he didn't even think that that he couldn't come up with as stupid of an answer as Donald Trump just did. No one even believes this, by the way. Like, not even the Alex Jones fans believe this. He is literally just doing propaganda in the same way that Dan Bongino was, and in the same way that what's his face, Kash Patel was doing. He's like, oh, big beautiful not be. He would not be involved in this. I promise. It's just all the people around him that are they're involved in it, but also big beautiful President Donald Trump's statements about the list is actually correct. I didn't even think about that. For years and years, he understandably railed against the Clintons and loved talking about the Epstein connection with the Clintons. And there's plenty of connection with the Clintons and Jeffrey Epstein. But if it wasn't Donald Trump who had actually gone on Alex Jones's podcast and had offered Alex Jones a platform and legitimacy, and any other Republican president who had also hung out with Jeffrey Epstein on numerous occasions, and Jeffrey Epstein frequented their golf course, for example, their golf club, and picked out victims from that person's golf club. If it wasn't Donald Trump and anybody else, do you think Alex Jones would not actually put the puzzle pieces together? I mean, the puzzle pieces are there. It's literally there. And he just actively avoids talking about those puzzle pieces, and instead will be like, no, that's right. That's right. Jeffrey Epstein was not involved at all with Donald Trump. He hated Donald Trump. All my research shows that Donald Trump is innocent.
Stuff out, destroy it. Well, that's obvious. They would leave documents, reports, Crossfire Hurricane, the list goes on and on. January 6th. So we've got to investigate this. We've got to keep open minds about
what the. Hold. It's going to fix itself. 1 second. It's the big one, but it's fixed. It's fixed. It's good now. We're back, but it's mega delayed, I assume, right? Let's do a delay test. Let's do a delay test. Hit 4. Boom. Okay, that was I had to do that. Okay. Wait, let's run the delay again. Let's run the delay again. Is there still a delay? I'm confused. Subscribe if you're back. What the fuck is going on? Subscribe. No, it's just like a weird thing that happens. I don't know what it is. IRL toolkit crashed site-wide? Maybe. But I don't think it was a data throttling or anything like that this time. It did read as a data throttle, kind of, from my end, but quite a few LA streamers said their internet has been going down on an almost daily basis. What's wrong with y'all's ISPs? I don't know. It wasn't happening in New York, I'll tell you that much.
Administration into a mega massive crisis, and Trump at press conferences and the rest of it saying, don't ask questions, triggers the ultimate Streisand effect and is insane. So I don't know where in the world they're coming up with that plan. We'll continue to track this in live time. We'll cover the good Trump's doing. We'll cover the bad he's doing. To give Trump our ongoing advice. And I'm going to post a video later, do a live show today at 4 p.m. Central, breaking down what I think Trump needs to do to get things back on track. And that's release everything. That's why Steve Bannon wants it released. He went and interviewed Epstein. He knew him. Nothing to hide. You had Alan Dershowitz saying, release it all. Doesn't incriminate me. Okay, well, then release the whole thing. This is not going away. It's only blown up 10 times bigger. It's out of control. And this was so obvious a week ago. People said, oh, you're being a traitor, saying it's going to be a big issue. No, I'm seasoned, I'm informed, I'm involved, I know what's going on. It's insane. We'll cover it all at Infowars.com. Relax Jones on X. Pray for America, pray for peace, pray for President Trump. Do the right thing.
Why does Liver King look so weird? He's just a weird guy.
Set of pictures that were the
Here's Michael Wolff repeating his claim that Jeffrey Epstein showed him a Polaroid photos of Donald Trump cavorting with topless girls by Epstein's pool. Wolff says he believes the FBI took those photos from Epstein's safe and still holds them.
Snapshots, and among them there are at least 3 that I remember. 2 of topless girls sitting in Trump's lap around Epstein's swimming pool, and then one.
Michael Wolff is a bit of a fabulist, I will admit. Okay, he is a little bit of a embellisher, which I feel like once you have that reputation as a serious journalist, then all of a sudden you're not so serious as a journalist, I will say. So who knows? But let's continue.
A stain on the front of Trump's pants with 3 or 4 girls laughing and pointing at it. So I have seen those pictures.
So what's your best guess as to where they are?
Well, I'm my best guess is that Epstein kept them in the safe. The safe was emptied out by the FBI. Where are those pictures?
Michael Wolff says Steve Bannon had become very friendly with Epstein. We know that to be true, by the way. That part is real. After Epstein's death, Wolff says Bannon freaked out and changed his phone numbers because he was afraid of his own connection to Epstein. He adds Bannon believed Epstein was killed.
One of the first phone calls I got when Jeffrey Epstein died, which was in the beginning of August 2019, was from Steve Bannon, and who had become very friendly with Epstein, and Bannon said, of course he was killed. Of course he didn't kill himself. And then Bannon then began to freak out and change his telephone numbers. And a moment.
Why?
Because he was suddenly afraid. I mean, I think afraid of his own connection to Epstein.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, I was never afraid, and I always take these things with somewhat skeptical about these things, and I'm somewhat skeptical, remains skeptical that was he murdered? I don't see that. At the same time, I'm not sure. It seems unconvincing that he would have killed himself the way it is described that he would have had to have done it, which is basically break his own neck.
Wolff says that he participated in riveting salons hosted by Epstein, which featured an extraordinary gamut of people, including former prime ministers or heads of finance in various countries. Vicky Ward fails to follow up by asking him who those high-level Epstein guests were.
From this quite extraordinary gamut of people who were there talking about the affairs of the world at an enormously high level, and at a knowledgeable level. I mean, these were some former prime ministers or heads of finance in various countries. I was there many times, and it was a kind of a riveting experience.
That's crazy.
Right. And of course, the mystery is, how did a guy who didn't have a college degree and had no real, formal training in anything, wasn't in the markets himself,
Who are the people? No questions on who the heads of state were.
Why and how was he able to command such respect?
All of this.
I mean, it's a good question, to be fair. I mean, it's a question that we know the answer to because of his connections. Clearly, it wasn't about anything other than that. Nobody was there because he was just an incredible conversationalist. Okay, that's psychotic. Some of the wealthiest individuals in society, and I guess they were all there because of his amazing stock trading tips and his tax portfolio. Are you going to talk about anything else today? Yes, I'm going to talk about how I'm with your mom now. I've become your stepfather. I didn't want you to find out this way, but it's time for you to find out. This is a profoundly important story. I don't understand. It's important for literally every facet of American politics. If you're a Republican, you're probably also questioning things right now. If you are a Democrat, you love this story because you won. Don't give up if other Democrats also get Democrat liberal politicians get outed here because you just want the truth. And you're additionally excited at the prospect of MAGA Republicans also not falling in line with the Trump narrative this time. Are you Donald Trump? What do you mean? Why are you still talking about this Epstein guy? The only guy who's out there being like, why are you still talking about this Epstein guy? Can we move on from this? Is Donald Trump. Are you Donald Trump? Is Donald Trump in the chat right now? Wow, what are you doing? Still talking about this? I mean, come on, dude. Let go. Let it go, please. Let it go, please. Stop talking about this, please.
The real answer is Jeffrey Epstein was working on behalf of intel services, probably not American.
Yeah, that's bullshit. This probably not American side is bullshit. Yeah, totally, dude. Yeah, it was just Mossad. No, definitely. Nothing to see here. God, I hate this shit. Chuck Schumer official. I don't see why we need to keep talking about this nonsense. Okay, that's funny. This one's funny. Chuck's in the building. Everybody, we got a legendary politician here. Okay? We will win. We will win. Only if you stop talking about this Jeffrey Epstein nonsense. Taco Trump. Classic Taco Trump.
And we have every right to ask, on whose behalf was he working? How does a guy go from being a math teacher at the Dalton School in the late 70s with no college degree to having multiple airplanes, a private island, and the largest residential house in Manhattan? Where did all the money come from? And no one has ever gotten to the bottom of that because no one has ever tried. And moreover, it's extremely obvious to anyone who watches that this guy had direct connections to a foreign government. Now, no one's allowed to say that that foreign government is Israel because we have been somehow cowed into thinking that that's naughty. There is nothing wrong with saying that. There is nothing hateful about saying that. There's nothing anti-Semitic about saying that. There's nothing even anti-Israel about saying that. I've spent my entire life pretty much in Washington, where I knew and loved a number of people, including one very close person who worked at CIA. That is never prohibited.
He's talking about his dad, by the way. He's literally talking about his father, which is also part of the reason why Tucker Carlson is saying, well, it's pretty obvious that Jeffrey Epstein worked for a foreign government. And certainly not the CIA, just Mossad. And he just was allowed to work on U.S. soil over and over again, despite the fact that the CIA obviously allowed him to do so. Please, it must be just Israel that he was working at the behest of, and no one else. What's going on? Definitely no one else.
Me from saying horrible things, murdered a bunch of people, participated in the murder of a sitting U.S. president. It's got a whole trail of crimes. That doesn't make me a disloyal American. It doesn't make me anti-American in any sense. I was born here. My family's been here for hundreds of years. I love this country. That's why I live here. So criticizing the behavior of a government agency does not make you a hater. It makes you a free person. It makes you a citizen. You're allowed to do that because you're not a slave. You're a citizen. And you have a right to expect that your government will not act against your interests, and you have a right to demand that.
I'm so mad conservatives get to say shit like this. Nah, not a lot of conservatives, just Tucker Carlson. I think he's the most dangerous prospect for the... Like, a lot of people talk about J.D. Vance running for office, but I think the person who will usher in an ideological... If there is another election, okay, the person that will usher in an ideological Fourth Reich, the one thing that Trump doesn't have is like a conviction to be like a full-throated white nationalist. Tucker Carlson has that. Also a television character, as you guys know, very telegenic, much smarter than Donald Trump, much more convincing than Donald Trump. No way people hate him. What are you talking about? Tucker Carlson had the most popular news broadcast in the country. Tucker Carlson has all of the qualities of Donald Trump and also some more dangerous aspects. I think Tucker lost his sauce and fell off since leaving Fox. You are not paying attention if you think that. Tucker Carlson, despite being on independent media, still has it. Like, I thought so too. I thought when he left Fox News, I thought it's over for Tucker. Look at him. He's like doing Twitter shit. He's cooked. He has been able to claw back that relevance through independent media piece by piece. He has absolutely recovered. The only thing he's missing is financial backers, okay? Part of the reason why he was fired from Fox News, if you read the tea leaves or if you read the reports on it, was because Rupert Murdoch himself was afraid of the influence that he retained there. Rupert Murdoch was terrified of what he was capable of doing. He has not actually recovered all of the clout that he had, but very clearly, he has piece by piece picked up a lot of the pieces, and he has been able to go above. He's been able to retain a big chunk of his influence. I am telling you right now, he is a terrifying figure because unlike Donald Trump, he will go the full way with white nationalism. And he has a much better way of delivering white nationalist rhetoric in a way that Americans find palatable, okay? If you ever listen to this guy, if you ever listen to this demon, maybe I'm wrong on this, but his YouTube page has basically brought him back to life. His big interviews still popped off. He doesn't have Asmongold's level of clout and Asmongold's level of reach. Having said that, however, the type of reach that he has is very different than Asmongold. Asmongold gets the non-voters and the socially maladjusted shut-ins. Tucker Carlson's reach is still firmly within DC, firmly within those in positions of power. Look, I'd vote for Tucker 100p. You'd vote for a Nazi? Yep. Follow your leader who? Mine well, you are. You've been saying this about Tucker since Trump 1.0. You're probably right, unfortunately. Yes. Tucker Carlson has tremendous staying power, and he is a media demon. I don't think he can control the base as easily as Trump does, but he's definitely the top candidate to pick up the torch and do some tough shit with it. Yeah, Tucker Carlson interviewed the president of Iran, dude. He interviewed the president of Iran. He interviewed Putin. He still gets RFK Jr. He did the Ted Cruz thing, obviously, as you guys know. That one banged. He is terrifying. The rapidly shifting MAGA discourse on Israel is bigger than it may seem at first. Tucker Carlson is pointing the finger at Israel's Mossad as being behind Epstein's operation is getting much attention. Although this connection is being made widely in parts of MAGA world, but the increasing split on Israel within MAGA goes well beyond anger over the Epstein files. It's been brewing over several issues: Gaza, the Iran war, and foreign aid, as well as anger over the return of neocon influence. On Gaza, much of the attention is focused on the Democrats, who have dramatically turned away from Israel, with every major poll showing this trend. But what has been missing is that Republican views of Israel have also become more negative since the Gaza war, with a recent Pew poll showing that the biggest shift nationally has been among Republicans under the age of 50, going from 35% negative to 50% negative in 2025. The Iran war and the return of loud neocon voices pushing us for further military involvement has angered many in the MAGA world, as has been widely reported. This is true. Connected to this is the increasing cost of supporting Israel, reaching well over $20 billion since the Gaza war started, at a time when MAGA world expects budget cuts while many of Trump's supporters are struggling. Carlson connecting the criticism of Israel with broader suppression of free speech, something that the left has been protesting, seems also to resonate with many on the right. The strongest remaining voices of support for Israel on the right are evangelical Christians, but there has been evidence that support for Israel among younger evangelicals has also been dropping in recent years, and the number of evangelicals in America has been declining. Now, some in MAGA world are publicly challenging the very assumption that support for the modern state of Israel is biblically mandated. It all adds up to an unexpected, vigorous divide on Israel within MAGA. We already know that there is a divide on Israel with the Democratic Party's base of support versus the Democratic Party's politicians. But no such major fissure has existed within the Republican Party as a direct consequence of the evangelical base and their defense of Israel, their unconditional loyalty, support, and defense of Israel. That is also changing within the youth of the Republican Party. Okay? Tucker Carlson will turn around and use this to his advantage. And he has been. One of the many things that I've talked about with respect to Tucker Carlson in the first Trump administration was that he would, in the absence of any Democrats making left-wing populist economic messages, Tucker Carlson would fill that void on Fox News every night. He was perhaps one of the most important voices on retaining social safety nets for whites and for legacy Americans, as he says, which is a substitute for whites. Okay. And I said over and over again, if you go back to my 2016, 2017 analysis, I said, if the Democrats don't actually create a convincing and genuine left-wing populist message, a left-wing populist platform, the only people in mainstream media that are saying these things will be the likes of Tucker Carlson. Because there is clearly a need for this kind of messaging, people will gravitate towards Tucker Carlson. I'm saying the same thing once again about Israel. If no mainstream Democratic voices are out there criticizing Israel, then the only people who will use the issue of Israel as a way to develop earnesty in the eyes of the voting public will be the likes of Tucker Carlson and maybe even someone as kooky as Marjorie Taylor Greene. Israel now, like anti-Israel sentiment, is now seen as a way to show how real you are. A lot of Democrats don't understand this reality. I am urging people to recognize, okay, saying that you hate Israel, even cynically, even as a mechanism to win support, is a viable outcome now. It shows you as a real anti-establishment figure. So if the field of Republican contenders and Democrat contenders are flooded with people who are unconditionally pro-Israel, screaming "Am Israel" high every day, the one person that comes out and says, nah, fuck Israel, why do we have this kind of insane, dangerous loyalty to Israel, will come across as the only earnest figure. It will be an opportunity for the likes of Tucker Carlson to basically seize, dominate political discourse, as he is currently. This is terrifying. It is very frustrating. Matt Duss has a similar take here. Says, yep, Democratic leaders have a choice. They can build a party by embracing left populists like Pam Bondi who are confronting these problems, or keep fighting them and watch as young people flock to right populists who are confronting these problems.
Biggest house in New York. Like, what is that? Like, at some point, the basic economics really matter. And they matter because, not that it's bad that rich people are getting richer, it's bad that everyone else is getting poorer. And it's especially bad that young people can't afford homes. Let me just put a very precise point on this. If you want a measure of how your economy is doing, I personally favor eliminating GDP as a measure. I don't even know what that is. It's clearly not relevant. They tell me Japan has a stagnant GDP. Have you been to Tokyo? It's the single most radicalizing experience you'll ever have because it's just so nice. You lost the war? Really? Can we lose a war and wind up like this? GDP. No. I don't know what even that is. The total economic activity. Oh, no. My measure is really simple. I got a bunch of kids. Can they afford houses with full-time jobs at like 27, 28? And the answer is no way. And the answer is that 35-year-olds with really good jobs can't afford a house unless they stretch and go deep into debt.
Why is it populist when leftists use material announced to provide direct relief to voters' quality of life, but not populism when centrist liberals throw around platitudes and do nothing? I mean, centrist liberals use populism as a negative term. So much so that they've invented a new term that is basically populist, but David Shore has a new term for it. It's called popularism, as in abiding by popular sentiment that is like focus grouped into oblivion. That's how much they hate the term populism. They use it as a pejorative. True populism is not supposed to be a pejorative, but this is the one thing that separates neoliberals from people like myself. When they say populist, they mean it as a negative. When I say populist, I mean real left-wing populist economic theory, okay? Concepts that are overwhelmingly popular, that uplift the working class, okay? Liberals point to that as, oh, you just want everyone to have health care, or you want everyone to have a unicorn, okay? You want everyone to have a unicorn. You're over-promising and you're not going to be able to deliver. It's not like liberals actually end up delivering on their promises either, ironically enough. Liberals don't actually fucking end up delivering on their promises either. The problem is they also don't even promise good things. They promise less and then don't even deliver on the little amount of promises that they made. So it's spectacularly bad policy and also bad politics as well.
And I just think that's a total disaster. That's a complete disaster. Why? Two reasons. One, if people don't own things, they don't feel ownership of the country they're in. And the country gets super volatile because people feel like they've got nothing to lose. When you have a lawn, trust me, you're thinking long term. Second, it's really hard to have a family without a house. It is. It's like super fun to live in an apartment if, there's like a bar downstairs, you're in a cool neighborhood. I'm in East Village. It's so cool.
He's such a good communicator. I hate him. I despise him because everything he said up to this point, I almost 100% agree with. Down to the GDP being like the most important factor. What good is the GDP if people are suffering? I mean, he could have even made that point, not by looking at Japan, but he said Japan because he's a racist. Because the hidden agenda there is Japan is a ethno-nationalist, right? Japan is like an incredibly not diverse country. He could have said Europe as well. Europe is a even closer analog to use here. Look at European capitals. Am I to believe the notion that Paris is literally poorer than Missouri? Have you seen Paris? Look at Paris and the average middle-class Parisian and their lifestyles, and then look at the average middle-class Missourian. The reason why he used the example of Japan, on the other hand, and for the record, obviously, European capitals are experiencing the same kind of like diminished quality of life year over year due to, again, austerity economics and neoliberalism, unchecked neoliberalism. But the reality is that many of these European capitals, many of these European nations, technically on the GDP front, are poorer than Louisiana, for example. But you look at the quality of life in a European capital. If you look at the quality of life in a European capital and then compare it to the quality of life for the average person living in Louisiana, you realize that GDP doesn't matter at all, okay? It's just numbers on a board that make you feel. Numbers on a board that make you feel like things are good. Why didn't he use Norway example? The reason why he doesn't use Norway either is because it's European and gay and woke. Japan is far away and not gay, nor is it woke. That's the reason why he's using Japan as an example, especially on the notion of GDP. They say the Japanese GDP is stagnant. And, you know, Japanese GDP is terrible. But you look at the living standards and the living conditions of like Japan, when you have all of these social safety nets, amenities, severe degrees of regulation, and the cost of living overall, in comparison to the United States of America, it looks like, I mean, it looks fantastic. Japan's problems unironically stem from something that Tucker Carlson wants to do here in the United States of America, which is xenophobic ethno-nationalist policies. Ironically enough, Japan is suffering as a direct consequence of not having any sort of immigration, not offering any sort of not offering any sort of citizenship to people outside of Japan, because it is one of the only like examples that we can point to that is as close that closely resembles an ethno state, with its own internal genocide as well, its own external colonial ambitions, and up until World War II. But anyway, up until this point, Tucker Carlson brings up incredible points. But you will see why he is an indecent, right-wing, nefarious propagandist. Let's take a look.
Try to have 3 kids. You're not going to have 3 kids there. You can't. Nobody wants to raise their kids in that neighborhood. Nobody wants to raise their kids in an apartment. People do it because they have to. Nobody wants to. People want a little house, not some McMansion, just a little normal house. That is the actual American dream. And that is what is totally unattainable for young people. And so the only young people in general that you will ever meet who have houses are young people whose parents help them. And God bless their parents. That's a perfectly great thing to do for your kids. But most people's parents can't afford to do that because they're already in debt from their pointless college degree. So that is a national emergency. And I know that there are certain cable channels that are spending all this time talking about, oh, they're about to elect a socialist in New York City, which obviously I'm opposed to it.
Yeah, here, look at what he's
not even a real socialist. He's like a trainee vax, rich kid liberal guy. Mom Donnie. He's a fake leftist, but whatever. Why do you think that's happening? One of the reasons
Mom Donnie
it's happening is because normal people with normal.
I like that he also hit him with a fake leftist, by the way. Like, who's the real leftist, Tucker? Are you a leftist then? Like, guy who doesn't want any association with leftism at all, talking about who is a real and who is a fake leftist.
Normal jobs no longer believe they can win in this system, and that all the money is going to the worst people. And no one even stops to ask, what the hell is going on? How did Bill Ackman get so rich? I mean, I know he went on CNBC and talked down Herbalife, bet against companies by driving down their stock prices. That's what he's been accused of. I'm not accused.
Japan is not suffering due to a lack of immigration. No, yes, it can be held with immigration, but the actual problem stems from it being a demoralizing capitalist hellscape. Oh my God. Every country is a demoralizing capitalist hellscape. Okay? Every single country is. And yes, that is a major problem, both in Japan, both in South Korea, both in many of the European capitals that we were talking about. But beyond that, there is no quote unquote solution to if you consider this a problem to begin with, the aging population. And which, by the way, it is a problem. Like, an aging population is a problem because our entire economy and our entire existence revolves around being productive. And after a certain age, you cannot be productive. You can't do labor. Okay? So yeah, it is a problem. Developed nations end up falling into this same pit no matter what. The only developed nation that has not fallen into is the United States of America. Do you want to know why the United States of America has not fallen into this issue? Because of endless migration. That's it. Undocumented immigrants come in and they have children on U.S. soil because we have birthright citizenship, and those children become full-fledged American citizens. That's it. That's literally it. Okay? It's not an accident that America is one of the only countries on the planet that is a developed nation that does not have issues with population growth, with having an increasingly aging population. That's it. Every time you bring this up, I really hate this argument. We don't need every country to have endless population growth. Endless growth is a deep root of the problem. We can't all live in McMansions, and an F-150 stagnation needs to happen. Oh my God, dude. Who is going to keep the engine going? Like capitalism or socialism, doesn't matter. You need to have working hands that control the widgets, if not develop the widgets at the widget factory, okay? That's it. Like, what are we talking about? What are we going to do? So we're going to live, 100 years in the future if we make it that far, where all of the developed nations are 65 years old and older, and then they're relying on labor in the global south? Is that what it is? Like, what are we doing? Yes, as a band-aid solution to the root cause of declining birth rates, the incredibly toxic work culture in Japan. It's not just the incredibly toxic work culture. Please stop. And not every single person needs a McMansion and F-150. I'm not talking about endless growth. No, we need a world that is self-reliant and doesn't require endless growth. We can't keep growing and growing on a limited planet. We need to reach an equilibrium. Okay, how do you cap it? And we're not anywhere near that level anyway. We're not, like, this is so... This is like eco-fascist. What do you mean? We need an equilibrium. What are you, Thanos? What the? Anyway, ultimately, you need productive hands for anything to work. Even in a socialist society, you would still need productive labor. You would still need necessary labor. You would still need hands to work the buttons if we have automation. Okay? And if everyone is over the age of like 65, 75, people are living till 110 years old, and society is increasingly getting older and older and older, eventually you're going to run out of hands to do the necessary labor. And unless you have this like weird servile state that we keep at bay and refuse to develop so they can steadily maintain a new crop of young, productive hands to do the necessary labor for survival, and that comes from the global south, while we stay trapped in our ivory towers in developed nations around the world, there's still definitely a need for, it's still definitely a problem in the interim and in the long term for societies to age out completely. And you absolutely do get that through less developed and countries that don't have the same birth rate issues. Like, sure, you're not wrong, but we're quite obviously far beyond what the planet can sustain. I don't think so. That's not true. Weirdly enough, a lot of these takes I feel like resemble eco-fascist sentiment. Maybe I'm misunderstanding chatters. Anyway, let's
using him here because sue me if I do. I'm just suggesting others believe that might have happened. He's already threatened to sue me for saying that. But there are plenty of people who do that. And I'm not saying even that it should be illegal. What I'm saying is that our leadership class should say something about it and should assign a moral value to it. And if you're getting rich by loaning money to people at incredibly high interest rates, that's something you're going to have to talk to God about. That is not good. That is not virtuous. That's disgusting. And the fact that nobody feels free to say that, nobody feels like you can just say like 30% on a credit card? Why is anybody paying a credit card bill? I said to somebody recently, I feel like I'm very moderate and sensible and...
Yeah, so we had this take. There was also Epstein running for an intelligence operation, as we were talking about. And then here's the most insane line that he had about Tucker Carlson was asked if immigrant farm workers should get amnesty. He replied, "That's the most grotesque thing I've ever heard."
Okay, your mom does too. Any questions? Yes, sir. What do I think about amnesty for farm workers? I think it's the most grotesque thing I've ever heard. Are you joking? Amnesty for farm workers? We have like 60 million illegal aliens in the country.
60 million. That's got to be just a number of like Hispanic people, I think. The Hispanic population is like, what, 69 million? Give or take. That's what he means, right? 60 million, dude? Yeah. Or 65 million is the number of the Hispanic population on U.S. soil. Maybe he's just saying like 4 of those or 5 of those 65 million are like white Hispanics so they can stay, like from Spain.
The country bears no resemblance to the country I grew up in, and it's not better, it's worse.
Yell at Tucker.
So I'm not going to sit for another lecture from anybody telling me we need to import more people to write code or pick grapes or any other task. Period. It hasn't worked. The country hasn't gotten richer. It hasn't become more unified. Those words should...
I mean, this is the honest conclusion of Trump's anti-immigrant agenda. Because what's the difference between an undocumented non-citizen and a documented one? It's paperwork. And if undocumented migrants are not responsible for the crimes that Trump claims they're committing, then what is the real reason why you want to deport them? What is the real reason? If they're just contributors to the U.S. economy, just like you and me, if they're even more meaningful, in some instances, more meaningful contributors to the U.S. economy, to agricultural output, then what is the one thing that you are seeing that is different about them than someone like yourself, someone like Tucker Carlson? It is the color of their skin. Like, that is the major difference. They're black and brown. Tucker Carlson considers them to be inferior.
Burn on the tongue of anyone who utters them. How dare you talk like that? Amnesty. How about deportation? What about that? I mean, look, and let me just say, people say all kinds of things. It doesn't mean it's happening. But I think it's worth being a little paranoid about it. I mean, I think everyone in this room is paranoid. It's important to make sure even the people you love are true to their word. Doesn't mean you hate them. Again, I don't take my kids I love my kids more than anything. I don't automatically believe everything they tell me because I'm not a moron. Because I understand that people don't always say the truth. So, but anyway, yeah, any kind of amnesty is not only a bad idea, it's like outrageous. Anyway, sorry, I've been told.
I think about how angry he is at this. Like, we know he's racist, but why is he this racist is the question one must ask. Is he actually that racist? I think he doesn't give a shit one way or another. He's auditioning for what he thinks is going to be the most important position that a right-wing presidential candidate can take in the upcoming election.
Not be allowed to act against your interests.
Everything he's saying should be read in that framework.
Creepy. It shouldn't be forbidden. And yet all of us have trained ourselves to believe that you can't say that somehow. That that's like too naughty and forbidden. And the effect of making that off limits has been to create a lot of resentment, and I'll say it, hate online. Where people feel like they can't just say, like, what the hell is this? You have the former Israeli prime minister living in your house. You have had all this contact with the foreign government. Were you working on behalf of Mossad? Were you running a blackmail operation on behalf of foreign government? By the way, every single person in Washington, D.C. thinks that. I've never met anyone who doesn't think that. I don't know any of them that hate Israel, but no one feels they can say that. Why? And I think the longer that we play along with it, the more subterranean and creepy and hateful the conversation actually becomes. So I think it's better just to say it right out loud. Did this happen? And of course, that question has been asked to the government of Israel, and their answer is, we're not going to tell you. And I think our answer should be, no. As long as we're sending you money, if you were committing crimes on our soil, we have an absolute right to know, did you do this or not? And yet everybody has been so brainwashed into thinking that's somehow an expression of hate or bigotry, when it's not. It's a baseline question that every U.S. citizen has a right to an answer on.
It's deeper than Epstein. Epstein is a symbol of who governs us, right? Do you govern us? You don't govern us. No chance the American people govern us. You just won. They had to try to have the third coup. Kennedy first, Nixon second, Trump third. They stole the 2020 election after stopping it only because you guys said, go yourself. We're going to bring him back. Right? We're going to bring him back. He's back. But are we in control? We're not in control. Why are we not in control? Why are we not in control? Because the deep state runs the deal, and they're laughing at us right now.
Yep. Look at young Americans. Remember what I told you about Americans and their association with Israel. Not every single one of these people arrived at this conclusion because they read the wrong books and developed anti-Semitic opinions. You need to understand it's because of Israel, and it's because of how Israel and Israel-backed candidates want to suppress American speech. Okay? Americans are somewhat selfish people. They are only invested in their own existence. When you're doing stuff over there, that's one thing. But when the stuff that you're doing over there requires an endless amount of money from us, and also on top of that, if you actually call into question this allegiance, you get branded a pariah, and on top of that, you lose your job, or you get hit with like the only real type of cancel culture. Americans are going to be like, what the f- are we doing? And it's not just the Democrats who feel this way. It's young Republicans as well. It is all Americans that recognize this reality.
Why can I burn an American flag in my country, but I get a mark by my name if I burn Israel's? Like, how?
I think that's an entirely fair question. It's totally outrageous. You got 65 million people here illegally, according to the administration, and the only ones who are deported are ones who criticize a foreign country. I don't understand it. It's driving people insane, actually, and it's making people angry in a bad way. People are so mad.
Carlson is so funny because his argument here literally is deport every single person that is an immigrant. Okay? Deport every single person that is an immigrant, documented and not undocumented alike, or every single Hispanic person, documented, undocumented, natural born, doesn't matter. Okay? The 65 million number. It could be either. It could be, he could be referring to both documented and undocumented Hispanic population numbers, or he could mean all immigrants, like documented non-citizens as well. He could mean any number of different, he can mean any number of different realities. Having said that, when he says there's 65 million illegals, they're not undocumented. That's not true. However, the argument Tucker Carlson is making is kind of stupid and kind of funny because of how stupid it is, because he's saying, don't deport them because they've criticized Israel. Deport them because they're not white. Like, he's literally, if he's referencing like Hispanic people, he means like, don't deport them because they're critical to Israel. Deport them because they're Hispanic. Or if he's talking about all immigrants, don't deport them because they're critical to Israel. Deport them because they don't belong here. That's why for him, it's like this argument about Israel and suppression of speech of Americans is simply a vehicle to deliver the nefarious agenda, which is to make America white.
Like the rage online. And I get it. That's the worst part. I get it. People go crazy after a while if you totally ignore their concerns, if you call them names rather than answering their questions.
At that FBI file. Then she got caught by James O'Keefe on hidden.
Like, this was the talk of the town at Turning Point USA. If I'm Charlie Kirk, I'm shitting my pants right now. Charlie Kirk is the administration's guy, right? He's the inside guy, and he's holding these events. And his job here is to basically try and keep the Trump boat from sinking. And every single media superstar that he has at the Turning Points conference is screaming about Israel and is screaming about the Epstein files, which is also somewhat connected to Israel as well. And it's crazy. You can't control this. How are you going to, exactly, his job is to placate Trump. How are you going to placate Trump if every single person at your conference is literally demanding this? In some ways, it feels like when Democrats run and claim that they're going to do healthcare, and then they never do healthcare. When Republicans run and they create unique problems that are not real problems at all, but at least like demand people's attention, shift their priorities away from their material circumstances over to like vulnerable populations that must be dominated, they actually follow through on those promises. You know, whether it be stopping trans athletes from participating in the NCAA or whatever, right? This was a problem that they also pointed to and said they would offer a solution to, and now they're not. So now Republicans, for the first time ever, are like, wait a minute, but this is, but we're used to getting what we want. I mean, you even did abortion. So why won't you do this? Why won't you do this? Yeah. Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? Stop talking about it. Girls and sometimes gals, guys and sometimes gals, why must you be talking about Jeffrey Epstein? Nobody cares. This guy won't die. He won't go away. Do not talk about him.
Camera saying she had tens of thousands of videos of Epstein and little children. It was like, what? Well, we never heard that. We heard he was into the barely legal type, you know, the like 18-year-olds.
I love the Trump deflections are so funny that when people post it in the chat, I laugh every time. Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking. We have Texas. We have this. We have all the things. And people are still talking about this guy, this creep. That is unbelievable. It's so stupid. It's so stupid. Like, his deflections have been so haphazard, put together last second, clearly scared. Like, you can see the fear in the way that in the tone that he takes when talking about Jeffrey Epstein, that you're laughing. Trump's begging you to stop talking about Epstein and you're laughing. I said this already. I said before, remember, when Trump is unique because he's the type of dude to talk about Jeffrey Epstein, right? Like, that's what people like about him. That's what people like about Trump, is that he would just like weave in random shit, sometimes conspiracy theories and whatnot, into places where it didn't belong. That's what people liked about him. And now he's like, why are you talking about Jeffrey Epstein? It's like what you would expect from a Democrat. You know what I mean? Like the smarmy, smug, elitist, why do you care about this? You shouldn't care about this ass tone about an issue that things do care about. I could hear like Joe Biden saying that about healthcare. You know what I mean? Oh, come on, Jack, we're doing NATO. Why do you care about healthcare? You know what I mean? It's like that's not something you expect from Donald Trump. Donald Trump is the guy who is supposed to talk about Jeffrey Epstein. So now he's doing this. Obviously, people are going to be like, the f*** do you mean? Why do I care about this? You made me care about this.
What? Well, we never heard that. We heard he was into the barely legal type, you know, the like 18-year-olds who look 14, but we didn't hear about children. And then because
we did hear about that. What the f*** are you talking about?
She was caught once again shooting off her mouth inappropriately. Attorneys General of the United States normally say nothing. They say nothing.
Merrick Garland had one press conference a year.
Yes, nothing. Bill Barr, you couldn't get him to speak or say anything.
What? They're criticizing Pam Bondi for speaking out of turn too much? Again, that's her position. Donald Trump hired these people because they're gay. Grade A yappers. Okay? That's why they were hired. G-A-Y. Grade A yappers. He hired them with the express purpose of yapping. He knew that they were yappers. That's why Pete Hegseth is the Secretary of Defense. Not because he can command, you know, millions of people under his employ, but because he can chirp. He's telegenic. He's loyal to Trump above all else, and he can talk.
Even Eric Holder was less chatty than this. So she got caught on camera and she decided to cover up the James O'Keefe slip by then running to a real camera and being like, there are tens of thousands of videos of the children and I'm announcing it all. So once again, she didn't give that to the influencers. And then she slides it into this memo.
So I have a dumb question. Maybe it's not dumb. So it's so she had doubled down on the videos. Is that correct, Megan?
Yes, now she's tripled down.
Epstein was not the perp in every one of those videos.
I don't mean to say this like in a why are you talking about this way, but do you think like the 4 hours alone you've talked about this topic signals the Trump admin's goal of distracting from deportations has worked? I've talked about the deportations every single time and every single day, with the exception of today. Okay, if you think that this is the Epstein stuff is a distraction away from the deportations, you are out of your mind. As a matter of fact, Trump would never want anyone to talk about Epstein, and Trump would want everyone to be constantly talking about the deportations, because guess what? Deportations are for his base. The base, seemingly, or at least to their calculation, loves the deportations. They don't, but that's a different point. Also, I was just talking about the deportations when we were talking about Tucker Carlson's statements about 65 million immigrants and whatnot. Okay. So no, I've been in this chat longer than y'all chatters, and I work in labor organizing, broader social media too. I mean, no. Jeffrey Epstein is a major issue. And it's a major issue that is actually driving a wedge between Trump and his base, unlike any other issue. There have been plenty of other things that have taken place in this administration, and people have written extensively about like, oh, are the tariffs driving a wedge between Jeffrey, or the tariffs driving a wedge between Trump and the base or whatever? Like, no, not like this, okay? This is the single most, for his base, for the MAGA base, this is the single most important issue, okay? Because it's exactly the type of thing that the base understandably demands answers on that Trump can offer almost unilaterally. Do you see what I mean? We've seen voters be like, Trump deported my wife, but I still don't think it was a bad decision to vote for him. But I've yet to see people convincingly talk about how, Trump is a pedophile and probably associated with Jeffrey Epstein, but it's okay because he's our pedophile. That part has not happened yet. Okay? We have not gotten to that point yet. We might. Some certainly will. But it's, I think, very important to see how Republican speakers identify this issue and try to communicate this issue. And it's important to see how whether the Republicans will take it or not. So far, they have yet to take the bait.
Videos.
So because they've been so ambiguous,
no, but like,
we're
let's
not
just
sure.
think about this. Unless we're led to believe that Epstein himself personally raped all these kids, children, or whatever, then isn't the statute of limitations on child rape like basically infinite?
Well,
so then why are we not indicting the people that were doing the raping that we have on video? Like, what's that all about?
Yeah.
No, you know this better than I do. So Epstein's dead. He's met his hopefully eternal fire where he deserves in the pit of hell. But if it's true, the Attorney General of the United States said, just remind me, we have thousands of videos.
She said that we've got thousands of videos showing child pornography.
And she doubled down on that. So
tripled.
So you have to infer Jeffrey Epstein was not the only person involved in that.
Well, no, let me tell you what I've gleaned, but since she's been so ambiguous, take it with a grain of salt, okay? She won't have a presser. She won't give an interview. She won't answer any hard questions. All we get is the unsigned paper memo, 2 pages to Axios, who won't ask any questions. So what I think she's saying is that she's found, allegedly, tens of thousands of screen grabs of child pornography. They call it child sexual abuse material now. It's C-SCAM. And that's what she says they found on his hard drives, like he was into this form of porn, like off the internet. But separately, they say he had at least 1,000 victims of his.
No, okay, so but 1,000 victims, unless we are to believe he personally was after every one of those victims, there has to be some other bad guys still alive that are powerful that did something to these children. Why are we not impaneling a special prosecutor to find every single one of these powerful people that went after these kids? Like, what? Why are we putting up with this?
Yeah, I don't know. And I think you'll find out.
Am I understanding this correctly? Because I don't even remember.
I can't answer that.
I don't even know Pam Bondi said that. I can't even remember all this because it's all over. I got a thing on my desk. I got truckloads of stuff.
Yeah, no, we all have busy lives, and President Trump has a busy life, and I don't think he realizes how much she's humiliated the administration. This is a self-inflicted wound. She caused it. Again, I have nothing against Pam Bondi, but if you want to look for the villain in this story, we have found her.
Yeah, it's not Trump. It's Pam Bondi. That's the real villain here. Please don't yell at Trump. I love how much they are trying, the outsiders and the media people whose job it is to read the room recognize how angry people are, okay, in the base. So Trump doesn't want to let go of Pam Bondi. That much is clear. That's precisely the reason why he made that statement about guys and sometimes gals, please don't yell at Pam Bondi, right? But the media people understand that they have their own careers. They have their own careers outside of the Trump administration. They also require a steady, they obviously play a formative role in dominating the conversation, but this is a piece of discourse that's not going away, and they recognize that, which is precisely the reason why they're like, come on, give us something, fire somebody in the admin, otherwise it's not going to go away. All of these conversations that they're having is actually for one guy and one guy only. This is not for the audience that's in the room. This is for Donald Trump. Okay, this is for Donald Trump. They are saying, give the people a scapegoat because otherwise you're cooked. You are not going to be able to solve the situation with your endless charisma. Okay?
I mean, she is the person who's, or she was lying then. There's no two ways about it. And if you accept what's in the memo, that they don't have the goods on anybody, there's no one who can be indicted, they didn't find a trove of info on other people, then why was she trying to titillate us over a child sexual abuse case for months? She was on the air repeatedly in February, in March, again in May.
Yeah, this is what the out is. Pam Bondi lied. People died. Pam Bondi lied about like the list, which is not going to be a convincing enough argument. It's better than what Trump is trying to do. It's better than what Trump is trying to do, which is to say, no, Pam Bondi didn't lie. It's the Democrats that wrote the list. So please don't look at the list. We can't release it because some of our faves will be implicated. Okay. The reality is, these guys think that as long as Trump says like, oh, Pam Bondi actually lied about the contents of this Jeffrey Epstein list and it was a big nothing burger, he doesn't, like, they don't realize that that's not going to be enough for the base. The base is going to be like, okay, you fired Pam Bondi. We still want the list. What the f do you mean there is no list? When are they going to blame DEI? Yeah, when they fire Pam Bondi, they're going to be like, we shouldn't have put a woman in charge.
It's completely inappropriate. You don't play cutesy with child sexual abuse material.
So, Megan, I don't mean to interrupt. I mean, first of all, you're totally right. But you know the media, you know, you've been around the space of like hyper ambitious women. What is this? Analyze her for us.
Oh my God, oh my God, right as I said it. Oh my God, there it is. Yeah, hyper ambitious woman in the media. You know how it is. You know how these bitches are. Oh, DEI, baby.
Well, I think she wants to make a name for herself. What she really wants to be is a star. That's what I think she wants. That's why she runs to the cameras on Fox News. There's no other reason. Look back at the attorneys general. Seriously, do you ever?
You have a chud brain. I understand the mind of a right-winger better than a right-winger understands themselves. God, I could be such a good right-wing commentary person. It's not even, it requires no, like, it requires very little thinking. I swear to God, I could do this better than every single one of these. I swear to God, except for maybe like Tucker Carlson. That's why I always laugh when people are like, Hasan, you're a grifter. But I also hate you for being honest about your points of view, even if the point of view that you're demonstrating is like broadly unpopular in mainstream media, even though maybe it'll take a year or so for a lot of people to arrive at your conclusions that you came to after years and years of reading, you know? I could do it. I could do it so hard. I could do it so easily. If I wanted to grift, I would just be a right-winger. Oh my God. So stupid.
Ever remember knowing an attorney general like this? Or like even having the attorney general's voice in your head? I can barely remember Merrick Garland's weird little nasally voice, but I mean, it's in there. But the average person couldn't pick him out of a lineup because normally attorneys general are somber, serious people who are fairly annoying, but they're schooled in the law. Pam Bondi has one trait, and I think it's why Trump chose her. She's loyal to the president. And I get it. He does need somebody loyal, especially in that position. But he has a wealth of other options.
Well, I mean, I think Judge Jeanine is amazing. Do we like Judge Jeanine? Everything I like Judge Jeanine.
Judge Jeanine would be brilliant. Harmeet Dillon would be brilliant.
So you're calling for...
They're still going for Fox News personalities to do the job of attorney general. That is crazy.
For Pam Bondi to resign or to go. But can you please tell people the breaking news? According to reports that you have verified, Kash Patel and Dan Bongino will resign if what does not happen?
If she doesn't go.
So
I only have it on Bongino.
It's all over X though.
No, I know, but let me just tell you what my reporting is. Bongino, it's Bongino or Bondi. He's not
Who
saying.
would you guys prefer, Bongino or Bondi? Okay, 7,000 to 0.
They want Dan. Of course, Dan, you know why? Because Dan understands MAGA. Dan's part of the MAGA movement. Dan's been an important piece of it and a mouthpiece for like really important ideas and an advocate and a fierce warrior. He's been in the trenches. I mean, with all due respect to Pam Bondi, she's been a president. It's nice, but do you think she really gets MAGA? I don't think so. She wouldn't have behaved this way if she did. And now it's a time for choosing. It's a time for choosing. We're about to lose Dan for sure, and maybe Kash too, if she doesn't go. Now she's got some allies. I mean, I think Susie Wiles is close with her, and Susie Wiles is amazing. And look, there's not that many like powerful women in the administration. Maybe she wants to keep her. She's from Florida. Susie Wiles from Florida. Trump lives in Florida. But this has gone well beyond this. Like, this could actually cost Trump in the midterms. We need to make a smart choice right now. We can't lose any of the MAGA base.
And let me just also reiterate this. And by no means did I want...
I can see Dan quitting, but I doubt Cash would quit because Dan actually has or had a career outside of this, whereas Cash never really had a serious career outside of this. It's the funniest thing to be a guy who's like, I had a robust media career. I was getting unlimited Rumble bucks. I had a life. I could just sit around in my podcast studio and do podcasts. And now you cooked me. You're cooking my future. What the fuck does Cash Patel have? Nothing. He wrote children's books.
Our very big student action summit talk about Epstein, the entire, like, of all the things. I'm not like Epstein obsessed. Some people, their YouTube channel, it's all they talk about.
Congresswoman Luna, thank you for all the work you've done on releasing the JFK files and trying to get the Epstein files released. A good friend of yours, Steve Bannon, who I'm also a huge fan of, did an interview with Jeffrey Epstein in 2019, and he recorded almost 15 hours of footage interviewing Jeffrey Epstein. There has never been an interview with Jeffrey Epstein publicly released, except some of the depositions and whatnot. Would you ask Steve Bannon to release this footage now? Because I think it's very relevant and might give us some insight into...
Oh my God, cook the Bannonites too. Oh, this is... Oh, dude, come on, chat. Being like, why do you care about this? Are you kidding me? It's such a glaringly obvious contradiction that even the dumbest hogs, even the goddamn dumbest hogs are aware of. They're not even oblivious to it. It's so perfect. It's so beautiful. It's so Kino. Oh my God, this is inject this directly into my veins. I am mainlining this. This is straight up pure black tar heroin. Oh.
To what Jeffrey Epstein's motivations are and whatnot.
Well, I think you just asked him for us, right? That's actually the first time I'm hearing of that. But yeah, I'd be very interested in seeing that footage, and I think the American people would too.
26 midterms. How do we get over the trend that the party in the White House loses seats in Congress, and just how do we move forward?
Well, according to the polling I'm seeing, we're not losing any seats. I think that's a historical record will reflect that. But again, you know, I feel like 10% of us in Congress do 90% of the work. And so it's our whole goal and objective to push the party into codifying and getting off our bums and actually doing the right thing by maybe doing our jobs in Washington. And so if you guys can continue to help with that message, that would be great.
After a series of historic Trump victories on 4th of July weekend, almost as like a spitting-in-your-face insult to all of us, the Justice Department decided to crack this thing open and piss off the entire world. Concluded no further disclosure of material would be appropriate or warranted. Really? Well, you know, Pam Bondi, everybody in the federal government right now, like, let me explain how this works. We, the American people, decide what's warranted. And if you've forgotten, that privilege of what is released and what is not lies with the American people. We have a voice, and throughout all history, when you fight that fight, it is a losing battle. Eventually, with enough people calling loud enough, we're gonna get what we want. Stop insulting us and saying that we want CP released on the internet. Stop insulting us saying that we're some type of like mongoloid troglodytes that want predator material on the internet. No, we don't. What I want is a more full constellation of what the Jeffrey Epstein op was.
They got bored with the R word. They're trying to hit different lines here.
Why high profile officials like Alex Acosta said he belongs to Intel, so let's give him a pass on sex trafficking with children, which is what they did. They gave him a pass to sex traffic with children. So who's they exactly? Somebody explain that to me? Are we paying taxes to a globalist predator cult? It should be like the lowest possible threshold for you as a government to confirm with the American people that we're not doing that. It's pretty basic. We're not perverts. They're the perverts. We're not goblins that want like predator material. They're the people who did that. Stop covering up for them. And so in order to protect our own children and our own society and our own nation and our own sovereign, faith-based, God-centered nation, we're going to ensure that people who did that, and I'm sure it happened, people who did that are punished. Oh, and there are some voices on the right who are very excited about closing this chapter. That's also extra telling. right? Plenty of voices on the right that are like, oh, move along. Yep, nothing to see here. We agree. Yep, how could you? We agree. Now it's time to move on to more important things like funding of foreign wars. Shut up. You know, it's like you're such frauds. It's so hard to like play the game anymore. You're such frauds. It's gonna get me off on a tangent that I don't want to go on, but there are a couple of voices that are too excited to close the chapter on Epstein. It's very curious. Predators will not be protected in our movement. That's going to be like part of the movement, like the core of the movement. We're not the ones who sex trafficked 300,000 children into our nation and lost them. That's the other side. They're going to have to defend it before God. We're going to be the people that go out and try and save them. Am I wrong? Any father knows.
He's so bad at this. It's kind of Benny Johnson having a media career. Benny Johnson having a media career with like decent numbers too on his videos proved the point that I was making before, which is that like it doesn't require much to be a right-wing commentary guy, man. Like it does not make any sense. He is such a charisma suck. AI thumbnails are the new thing, I guess. Yeah. A lot of the right-wing Twitter, included Asmongold, is using these AI generated thumbnails now. It's like a telltale marker, and they pop off on Twitter, or not Twitter. Sorry, they pop off on YouTube. Tyler Oliveira, Asmongold, Benny Johnson. There's a bunch of these like crazy channels that do that shit.
Any dad knows. I come home to my little children and I think about the dads who had their kids stolen from them, like Virginia Roberts' father, who was on Piers Morgan weeping about how his daughter was killed after all that she's been through in order to cover all this up. And it's, you know, it could be
Tyler Oliveira right wing. Yes, man. Yes, he is. It's like, I just watch his videos and I think he makes a really convincing case that, you know, Polish Nazis are actually doing the Lord's work by beating the shit out of migrants that they suspect are crossing the border. I don't understand. Hello?
Of us, quite frankly, right? Life comes at you fast, and
President Trump promised to end the wars.
God, John Ossoff could be a promising figure in the Republican future. And it's just like, he is such a cuck. He is such a... In the Republican future, I meant Democrat future, sorry. Oops, I misspoke when talking about Democrats because I'm so used to calling them Republicans. John Ossoff is... Yeah, Freudian slip. John Ossoff has had like unique moments of clarity, and yet he is such a establishment Democrat shill too. It's so goddamn annoying.
He promised to release the Epstein files.
How is he any different than Petey? There were brief moments within his career, like speaking out against Israel early on, and then immediately conceding and being like, my bad, I never should have said anything. Yeah, but then, he votes for the Lake and Riley Act, shit like that.
Did anyone really think the sexual predator president who used to party with Jeffrey Epstein files?
Which they desperately need, because Putin really surprised a lot of people. He talks nice and then he bombs everybody in the evening. So there's a little bit of a problem there, and I don't like it. Oh, I think so. I did. I spoke to him today. Dan Bongino, very good guy. I've known him a long time. I've done his show many, many times. And he sounded terrific, actually. No, I think he's in good shape.
I was going to ask you, on this one-year anniversary of Butler, what was going through your mind this morning, Mr. President, as you woke up to start this new day?
Will you repeat that question?
On this one-year anniversary of...
I am joined now by former New Jersey governor and former U.S. Attorney Chris Christie and SCOTUS blog editor.
It's got to be crazy to be the only Republican, like major Republican figure that hasn't gotten hit with the Ozempic ray. Like, how is Chris Christie still so fat, bro? It's like, look at every single major Republican figure that was that fat. They all look like they got the soul sucked out of them. Christopher Christie is still such a Twinkie. It's awesome, and I respect it.
Sarah Isgur, who served...
And he literally got a gastric bypass, too.
...as a spokesperson for the Department of Justice in the first Trump administration. All right, Chris, thank you for being here. Let me get right to the president's very lengthy statement overnight defending Pam Bondi, because it starts by saying, what's going on with my boys, and in some cases, gals, They're all going after Attorney General Pam Bondi, who's doing a fantastic job. We're on Team MAGA. I don't like what's happening. So are those boys and gals of Team MAGA going to go along with this?
Well, look, what Donald Trump is learning is when you start the fire, sometimes you can't put it out. Now, he started this Epstein fire during the campaign and prior to that by alleging that this was all some, Democratic plot, that he was perhaps murdered by former Democratic office holders, that there were a lot of Democrats who had been down to Jeffrey Epstein's island and all the rest. He used that to fire up his own base. And he was going to get to the bottom of it, and he was going to release it because he's absolutely in favor of transparency. Well, now you get into the job and you realize, maybe I don't want to do that. And let's be clear about this. Pam Bondi, there's no chance, in my opinion, that Pam Bondi made this decision on her own. No chance. She was instructed by the White House that we're not releasing this stuff. And that's why he's defending her. And now he's at cross purposes, though, because when you bring in people like Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, who are true believers in what Trump was saying prior to getting elected, they're saying, wait a second, we came here to do the transparency thing.
It seems to me that it wasn't so much Trump himself that was fueling the conspiracy theories. It was the people very close to him, his biggest supporters, people like Kash Patel and like Dan Bongino.
But John, wait a second. We cannot let the president off that easily. He benefited directly from it. He fueled it. He encouraged it. And he certainly didn't stop it. So, part of what bothers me in this context is that Donald Trump gets a pass. Oh, no, it wasn't him, it was somebody else. He took these people who were doing exactly what you just said and put them in charge of...
I mean, it wasn't even before he put them in charge. He was like at rallies with them. He knows that's his base. He's also very good at... He's also very good at responding to the needs of his base, right? He did it with all of the other edge issues. Having said that, yeah, on Epstein directly, he very rarely ever talked about it. But there are instances where he has talked about it.
Of the people on the front line of protecting the American people from crime and terrorism and counterintelligence operations. He encouraged this, and by putting them in those positions, he supported the work they were doing.
Well, let me play what Trump said Tuesday at his cabinet meeting. When he's there at the cabinet meeting, Pam Bondi is just a couple seats away from him, and a reporter tries to ask Bondi about all of this, and Trump intervenes and says this.
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable.
Okay, so Sarah, he said it's unbelievable and people shouldn't be talking about this. That was Tuesday. Yet all week, his people have been talking about it. People like Steve Bannon, Megyn Kelly, Charlie Kirk. These are prominent figures in his movement who have been talking relentlessly about this.
We've heard plenty of times with folks trying to determine whether this is where the MAGA base abandons Trump and things like that. And I think those have all been pretty big misunderstandings of how that hard candy coating around Donald Trump works. For instance, we saw that conversation happen around the pro-life movement, that Donald Trump was abandoning pro-life principles and that maybe this would break up the MAGA movement. But that hard candy coating, the people who really go out there day to day to defend whatever Donald Trump says, they're not policy people. They're not pro-life. They actually aren't even that big on immigration. They're really big on this stuff, though. JFK, Epstein, the moon landing, chemtrails. So this actually does have a real potential to influence whether Donald Trump has that protection between him and his base, those translators. And that's what you're seeing this week, is those translators are taking a really long time to come back to Donald Trump, longer than I think we've seen to date.
I mean, I'll tell you this, if you look at his Truth Social post, again, this very long Truth Social post, the responses, and who knows, there could be trolls, whatever, but are almost universally negative. People saying that they're not buying it. They're not ready to move on.
Well, John, you have Santa's elves telling kids that Santa doesn't exist, and they're having a really hard time with that.
So let me then play a little bit more from Kash Patel. We heard in the open that this was Kash Patel. He went on Joe Rogan's podcast in June, and was asked about all of this. And here's what he had to say.
But the problem is there's been like 15 years of
my favorite. They're calling him the least believable internet, the least trustworthy individual that you could ever bring to the table to convince a large amount of people that the administration is not hiding this incredibly high-profile sex trafficking case. When people say, like, Kash Patel is, like, a really believable figure in the MAGA movement, like, I don't believe that. I don't think anybody believes Kash Patel. Maybe Dan Bongino to a certain degree, but even then, all of this defense of Trump and the whole, like, Jeffrey Epstein stuff, there's nothing out there. It's absolutely destructive to their profiles.
People coming in and creating fictions about this that doesn't exist. Where's the videotape of an Epstein Island of X, Y, and Z committing these frauds? Why haven't you given it to us? Do you really think I wouldn't give that to you if it existed? I'm working my ass off, along with the leadership at the Bureau and DOJ, to get you what we're allowed to give you.
So, again, let me ask the fundamental question. Is the base going to buy it? You have the president saying nothing to see here. You have Kash Patel, who had been fanning this stuff directly, saying, look, I mean, I would tell you, I got nothing.
Well, look, I'll tell you, I'll answer his question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't believe you give it if the President of the United States ordered you not to. Because you haven't shown any independence from the President of the United States in your entire career. So he's asking me to believe something like, could you possibly believe me, Kash Patel, wouldn't do it even if the President of the United States told me not to? Look, the President made it very clear in that video we just saw before Patel's. I'm done with this. I don't want to talk about it anymore. Donald Trump never gives, or very rarely gives, direct.
Yeah, they're calling Chris Christie back for one last job. Okay? He's like, oh man, I didn't want to do it. But they're calling him back for a last job.
Orders. What he does is he does something like that, which is sending the signal out to everybody else. Enough. Stop. And so I'll answer Kash Patel's question. Yeah, I don't believe you would give it to us if, in fact, the President of the United States told you not to, and your direct boss, the Attorney General of the United States, has ordered you not to. And that's where we are.
So, Sarah, let me ask you really what is the big question. They released like 11 hours of videotape of Epstein's cell. It seems pretty well established that he, in fact, killed himself. I guess there are 60 seconds that are missing that has been attributed to a glitch. So the big question is this now case closed on all those conspiracy theories?
This was always strange to me because it depends what you mean by conspiracy theories. In terms of whether Epstein killed himself or this list that there's just no evidence ever existed, yeah, I mean, I hope.
Oh my God, mainstream media is so ass.
Get a hearing within 40 days.
Tom Homan issues savage dare to heckler interrupting him.
90% lose their case, they get sent home. That is not what they wanted. They're playing the long game. Let's release them in the community. Wait 3 or 5 years. Pardon me?
Are you an MS-13 member? It says so.
Hey, that's okay. That's okay. I got a question. No. I got a question for you. Why don't you come up here and hand me that picture? Bring it. USA.
Don't do it, kid. He's gonna arrest you.
All right. You got morons like this all over the country. This guy wouldn't like the surface nation. This guy ain't got the balls to be an ICE officer. He hasn't got the balls to be a Border Patrol agent. This guy lives in his mother's basement. The only thing that surprises me, you don't have purple hair and a nose ring. Get out of here, you loser. And you're such a badass. Meet me off stage in 13 minutes and 50 seconds. I guarantee you he sits down to pee. Guaranteed. Sanctuary cities. Let me talk about sanctuary cities real quick. Sanctuary cities are pushing back against the Trump agenda.
He's so hot. I just hate that Donald Trump keeps hiring the sexiest people. You know, it makes it all the more difficult. It makes it all the more difficult to like actively combat their message because I'm just taken away by their sexual charisma. He's like a walking stroke, dude. Bro, no wonder you fell off. Yeah, I fell off. More like I fell off. I fell in. What did I fall in? Love. That's right. I fell in love with Tom Homan. But who can blame me? He's so good.
Sanctuary cities are sanctuary for criminals. So sanctuary cities from day one, Chicago says Tom Homan is not welcome in Chicago. I was in Chicago within 24 hours. I've been to New York City. I've been to Denver. And for those folks from Seattle and Portland, I'm on my way to Seattle and Portland.